back to another episode of Say Yes to Travel, where we've been talking to individuals in different industries within the travel space. And I'm really excited about today's guest because what he's working on is something that we all know about. We all have experience either as a guest or certainly in operations. It's lost and found. And yeah, lost and found is itself, in and of itself, an industry. And really excited because today's guest is Steve Sinclaire, who is the president and founder of Bounte. Now, Bounte is the world's most advanced lost and found parcel tracking platform. So if you have ever worked at a hotel and you have had the great pleasure of trying to find the lost and found item and get it to somebody, you know, there are a lot of moving pieces. And what he's created with Bounte is pretty awesome. So without further ado, I'm actually going to have him talk about all the great things. So with that being said, Steve, welcome. Thanks so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I really enjoy your show, and I'm all excited about travel and how it's rebounding and how healthy everything is right now. And obviously really excited to talk about Lost and Found today.
Yeah, well, I am too. And, you know, we connected a couple of weeks back and, you know, everything that had originally kind of like struck my attention, because first of all, you know, for bringing everybody up to speed, I was a hotel concierge for like 15 years. I can't tell you the number of lost and found items I have had to deal with on operations, like from the hotel standpoint. But then also I travel all the time now too. And I'm still a little bit hurt that a hat that I lost a couple weeks ago in Mexico still hasn't found its way to me. So I know that many of us feel the pain, and I knew that this would be a great conversation, and especially with what you're doing with Bounte, like more people need to know about it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and Bounte's journey started very similar to yours. You know, you lose a hat. You know, my situation was very similar. Like it was 4 years ago. I was traveling with my family. We stayed at a really nice hotel. Won't name it. And when we stayed there, we left, we realized that my son left his blankets there. And as a parent, you know, if your kid leaves something valuable behind, you've got to be Johnny on the spot, get it back. Or they're not going to bed that night. And so I called the hotel, and it was like the hardest question they had of the day. Did you find my son's blankets? And they had to call housekeeping. And housekeeping was like, oh, well, we don't put that stuff in, write it down until the end of the day, and we'll get back to you. And like a couple hours later, they ended up calling me and saying, we got your blankets. How would you like to get them? And I said, well, just FedEx them. It's fine. You know, even though we were like an hour away. And so they had to switch machines, put me on hold, go into FedEx, do the whole shipping thing, and then charge my credit card over the phone. I guess they wrote my credit card number down and then brought it over to Sean. I'm like, what in the world is going on over there? Because I'm in technology. I've been in technology for 25 years. I was a CTO in financial services for 15 years. And all we do is problem solve all day long. So I couldn't help but ask, how do I peel this onion? Now, what is going on back there? And they said, well, we use Excel and Post-it notes and we have our own like setup. I'm like, that's fantastic. But how is that really helping you right now?
Yeah.
Said, it's really not. Why? I said, well, you know, what technologies are you using inside the hotel? He said, just the Excel and the Post-it notes. And I thought, oh, wow, there's no way that's possibly the case.
There is very much way that's possible.
Industry. That's what you're using. Out of all the property management systems and all the cool things I hear about with like voice and mobile and texting, and the problem with that is there's like 3 levels of guest experience. You've got the, oh, I'm about ready to go to the hotel. It's a really cool experience. I'm researching it. There's the experience of being at the hotel. Like, oh, it was a great wedding. It was an amazing conference. And then there's the experience you have when you leave the hotel or the airport. And that's, you know, I left my stuff behind. And then all of a sudden, it's like you're a low common denominator. You're like on the very end of the totem pole. And it's really the most important because that very well could be the last story you tell at the cocktail party about your experience that weekend. And so I realized the guest experience is so critical. You have to get the technology right in order to deliver that guest experience.
Oh, it's so true. And and by the way, I loved because we had this conversation before, and I mean, I know, like, honestly, it does, whether you even work in hospitality, you've certainly, at least you've had that guest experience where you have lost something. You're trying to like get a hold of it and get it back to you. And I can definitely speak, you know, on behalf of myself, like with all the requests that I have gotten. The system is totally archaic, whether it is literally writing down the credit card number on a Post-it note. I mean, I sometimes would have people, they were like, what are you going to do with my card number? It's like on a Post-it note. It's like, no, we have to like write it on the outside of a FedEx form. Don't worry. Oh, and it's on a FedEx form. And it's like, yes, but for FedEx, like, and you know, I mean, talk about super archaic, but it's, and the other aspect, which you kind of bring up, is like the lost and found process now is pretty much only as good as the person that you get on the phone. And you better hope that you get somebody that's paying attention, that somebody's quick and they get it. Otherwise, you might talk to somebody that's like, and there's nothing more frustrating as a guest from the consumer that A, you're missing your item, and B, whoever you're talking to on the phone is taking forever and they're not like quick and with it. So
that's right.
Yeah. So obviously
we constructed that problem and we put it into like three big areas of challenges within a hotel. And the first is what you're alluding to, which is the logging piece.
Yeah.
And what we saw is it's so inefficient. They either are typing in Excel, keeping notes, or they're using on the older system where they're typing basically the equivalent of a term paper into a website. And they do it at the end of the day because they know it's inefficient. And it's no one's real job just to do lost and found. And so someone just sort of has to have that responsibility at the end of the day. So we designed a system that we're able to use AI and machine learning capabilities within a smartphone so that all you need to do is just take a picture of it. So housekeeping or security comes across an item, they just take a picture of it, it's in the system, it's in the cloud, and it's automatically been recognized and labeled. And why is that important? Well, as you would know, as a concierge, if you got asked that question, but like, hey, I think I lost my watch. Do you know if you have it? You could have brought out your phone, click one little button, and it would have been right there. And you could have been, perfect, right? For guest experience. And that searching capability is the second major problem, which is we don't know what's in our lost and found. So you have to get up out of your chair, go run over, call security, and you have to have, you're basically fumbling the ball in front of the guest, which is like, well, okay, what do you want me to do? Just stand here? It's like, okay, and we have a system so that you could go and search through it really quickly. And that's one of the other aspects of the system that is super important to be able to get right for the guest, to be able to have that guest responsiveness that's inherent with lost and found inquiries. And the third one is really just a nightmare for everybody, which is returning items. Calling a hotel and saying, I need to have this shipped, even to the UK, because we support international currencies. That's a really difficult thing to remember how to do. It's like getting the item, packaging it, and then going, oh, wait a minute, I got to get a shipping label ready. And most hotels just gave up. They're just like, you know what, we're just gonna put on our own FedEx account and just pay for it for this particular guest because it's just easier. Yeah. But the system that we designed is it goes out and emails them, and then the guest checks out just like they would like Amazon or any other e-commerce sites, and they're able to choose a shipping option. And when they purchase it with their credit card, it's all PCI compliant. We remove all the risks, and it's super convenient. You'd be surprised when you look in the records in our database, you'll realize that a lot of those shipping labels are purchased at like 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. So that tells you something. People don't want to be bothered with this stuff during the day. You need to have that convenience. And that's one of the things that we help provide.
Well, and so actually another interesting part in regards to that, will it let them know the approximate cost?
Oh yeah, we provide all the shipping costs for each one of the carriers they support. And we don't add anything to it. So it's the actual real FedEx cost.
That's amazing.
The neat thing about Bounte is that we have this big master account. So we do so much volume, we get the lowest rates possible. So we bring that savings on to the customer. And one of the other aspects of the lost and found is it is really a cost center, right? There's people working on that all day long.
Yeah.
And so we add in a small fee on behalf of the hotel, and we actually have it as a line item, purely transparent, of $10 for domestic or $15 international, whatever it is, we work out the hotel, and we split it with the hotel. So the hotel goes, wait a minute, we just turned something that predominantly was a horrible guest experience into one that's very convenient, simple to use, and now you're telling us we can make some money off of it. And so that actually helps, bring a lot of value onto the bottom line of the hotel.
Well, you have thought about so many things with all of that. And that because the reason why I asked about the cost thing is I know for myself, and especially if we're talking about the archaic system, like, let me write down your number and then you're going to like plug it into FedEx. People would ask, they're like, how much is it going to cost? I'm like, I don't know if FedEx will determine that. And it's like, it's like, hopefully it's not crazy expensive. So this is really amazing.
We also have a field in there where you can actually add a little bit more than the $10. We actually it was a request from a large resort down in Florida. They had a mountain bike they needed to ship back.
Okay.
Like, mountain bike? And they're like, yeah. And we're hoping Bounte can help us solve this problem, because we went out and bought all these boxes that were specially made for mountain bikes at a bike store so that we could deconstruct the bike, put it in there and ship it back. And it was like 8 boxes. They sent all the stuff to the guest, and the guest goes, oh, really? Nah, I'm going to come back and pick it up. And so now the hotel was out like $80 or $90 in packaging fees. And I'm like,
wow,
solve that, because you would just put in the packaging fee in there and added that cost ahead of time. And then the guest would have gotten it and said no.
Yeah. Well, and
not to worry about coming out of pocket.
Yeah. Well, and that is, again, you know, a really great point as well, too, is that sometimes it's not just like putting in an envelope and sending something out. It could be something that's a bit cumbersome. Obviously, on the extreme side, like a mountain bike, but also, you know, it could be a teddy bear or something that's like, you don't necessarily just put that in a normal box per se, depending on the size of it. So that's really, really important to take into consideration, because again, I guess is going to understand, they're going to know, and they'll be like, yeah, of course you have to pack it up. They're not going to argue with you on that unless they live close enough and they're like, okay, now it's getting to be too expensive. I'll just
exactly.
You know, exactly. So we've definitely talked about like some of the pain points as far as operations. We can all relate to that. What are some of the things that you've seen and heard from guests, like from the guest perspective?
You know, it's interesting. And we talked about this in our last conversation, when I went to Tennessee. And, you know, I stayed at a nice hotel down there, and my nephew left his phone at the restaurant in the actual hotel. So we go out, we come back, and it was like that, you know, what do we do? So I went to the front desk and I said, did you guys find a phone or bring a phone up here from the restaurant? And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, you know, we left a phone in the restaurant, you know, do you have a lost and found? And of course, I know the lost and found, but I'm not getting into it. So I just asked, I said, is there an easy way for you to have access to knowing what's in your lost and found, or whether that phone was actually collected? She's like, no. And then she handed me this like really big card with some antiquated number on it. And I said, what am I supposed to do with this? And I said, well, you know, later go to the website, fill out this stuff, fill out that stuff. And I said, gosh, if you only had Bounte, but I didn't want to say anything because I was going to be there. But the guest experience I was feeling, playing that role, going, let's play dumb. And I'm just going to sit there and just roll with it and say, this is what the guest is experiencing. Mm-hmm. You know, they didn't know what was going to happen next. They didn't know what they were going to have to do on the website. It was clearly frustrating. There was like really no transparency into how that level of service was really going to be delivered. Yeah. And they were a really major brand, and they should be just nailing it. And I'm sitting there getting frustrated, and I was getting kind of concerned, because I'm like, that's an expensive phone. And I was frustrated at the same time. And I'm like, this is actually edging into the experience of the entire evening. Mm-hmm. And so that guest experience is absolutely critical to get, addressed with the lost and found.
Well, and I think what it comes around with is, first of all, that story is so spot on. But when we're talking about the guest experience, there's also an element of efficiency with it as well, too. And you want to make it, you want them to seem like they care. Because sometimes they're like, especially with cards, you're like, you don't care at all about my laptop.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what the guest experience is after you leave the hotel. And you know, and I think one of the next questions you're probably going to ask is, well, how do you deal with, with that situation? Like, how do you even solve it? Right. And so, the guest now is becoming more modern. Right. And so they've got the smartphone. And so that kicked that into high gear. So their expectation is like, every time they get a package, they get notified right away. It's like every time there's a problem with the hotel, they want to be able to communicate it back, but they don't want to call somebody and wait on hold. So they want to be able to text. They want to be able to use their voice. They want to be able to email. They want to be able to go to a website and have an experience that looks like it was well thought out.
Yeah.
And so most of the time when you go to these like websites and they go, oh, you have to go to the website and click the lost and found button, You have to fill out this like super long form. It's almost like you're filling out a job application, and it doesn't even look like it's part of their site, and it wasn't well thought out. And the experience, they're like, gosh, why can't you just get it right? And so we invented some technology called Claim Flow, which allows us to be able to plug into the various ways hotels prioritize communicating with their more modern travelers. So for example, I want to text. I just want to say, I lost something. And what's neat about it is the AI engine that we have behind the scenes can actually go, oh, that's a lost and found scenario. Let's ask 5 more questions about what you lost and then forward that information right into the Bounte system so that they were able to capture it and manage it instead of going to some website. If they want to use a website, that's great.
Yeah.
We also have a really cool card that we invented, which is a QR code. Okay. So instead of getting a number or some antiquated thing that you have to go on a website and fill out some stuff or look for that link, just point your phone at the QR code, scan it, and it brings up a really well-designed, stylish site that is custom, either built by the hotel and we integrate with it, or we help them create something that's very similar to the style and the kind of like the brand that they're recognizing when they go on to create this claim report back to the hotel. So it's a really neat aspect of the system that no one's really doing a good job at.
No, of course. And I have to say, like, I mean, really, when it comes to, and we talked about this, but it's like, when you think about lost and found, it's like the redheaded stepchild, you know, the one that like, nobody's really thinking about how can we streamline this process. It's really, businesses don't think about it, but it's like what you're doing is totally changing the entire lost and found experience from operations to the guest. And it's something that should absolutely not be overlooked.
Oh, no, you can't overlook it. Not making a decision on technology is making a decision in technology. And one of the problems that we're having right now is that if it ain't broke, don't fix it isn't going to work when you have to do more with less. And so they don't have the employees they once had. They don't have the 5 or 6 or 7 staff that are in this security group that are managing the hotels lost and found. They might have 3. So for them to be responsive to the guest and be able to collect information and be able to do their jobs effectively, they have to use systems where technology is doing part of their job. Yep. One of those that we invented was machine learning capabilities, where we teach a machine how to do certain things.
Wow.
And it's the artificial intelligence capabilities. And so instead of just throwing around a flashy term like, oh, we've got AI, it's like, no, we actually taught a computer how to recognize the items and images that are being added to the lost and found. So as a guest, you type in, oh, I lost a white iPhone 10 or Ray-Ban sunglasses. We actually take that term, that query, and we're able to go through every single image, score the similarity and probability of it using machine learning that was trained on 400 million images. And then it goes, here are the 3 suggestions. And then, so why is that important with do more with less? Because someone's job was to go and look every time there's an inquiry inside the lost and found, either manually or in the software. We're taking one step further where we're creating a suggestion, which is, hey, we think that these 3 matched your inquiry and you should probably take a closer look at these. And we've trained it so well, you don't really have to spend any time outside of that one particular screen looking for stuff on behalf of the guest.
Which is, I mean, okay, I get so excited about this because it's so, I get it. And I see like how you're literally streamlining in the process. And this is when people get nervous about, you know, technology and hospitality and losing the human touch. It's like, no, it's how do you streamline the processes so that you can have a more elevated human touch experience. And this is, you know, classic and case in point in that. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, you know, obviously like the last 18 months have been crazy for the travel and hospitality industry. And that is, you know, probably a good part of obviously where you work in, but how did Bounte maybe pivot, or did you hyper focus on something over the last 18 months? I mean, certainly you've been busy and you've covered a lot, but.
Yes, we're really busy. Yeah. You know, when sales and customer service you know, became like less active during COVID, a good technology company, you know, turns inward and says, okay, well, what can we do and how can we actually leverage this opportunity to our benefit? And one of the things that we did was, well, we did 3 things: innovate, innovate, innovate. We actually called the GMs and the security people who were like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And we said, what is going to happen when all of those people come back and you have half the staff? Oh my gosh, what would happen? And so we would walk through all these different scenarios, and the GMs, I'm so amazed at how many great ideas leadership in hotels have, and they just don't have the opportunity, the forum, or the capability of communicating it out because they're so involved with all their day-to-day stuff. They just get in their car and just sit and look out the window. They're like, oh my gosh, what a day.
Yeah.
But because we had COVID and I was on the phone and we had engineers on the phone, we're talking through ideas. They're going, oh yeah, there was this one thing, wouldn't it be great if, and then all of a sudden we have these really amazing features, and that's where we get the machine learning matching, and we get all of the really cool multi-item recognition and all the neat stuff that we have in Bounte. But one thing in particular that was really interesting was, so well, what about all these items, and we bring them back to the storage room, they're all gonna sit next to each other, right? Like how can we help, create a safe area for that because of COVID? There was a lot of like interesting research and conflicting research about how long does COVID last on items? And so we invented these things called Bounte Protect bags. And we partnered up with the bag manufacturers that create them for hospitals. And so we know the seal on the bag is going to be like, air and water tight. But we also designed a special barcode that you can use with the Bounte software and the phone so that you could, when you find an item, you can put it in the bag, seal it, scan it, and know that that item and that bag are together. And so what we actually invented was the ability to safely gather, store, and return items and guarantee the fact that they never touched anybody else's stuff back to the guest. So we only had maybe one person handle it. And so we created a much safer environment for that. We had like 3 different bag sizes and all the hotels. It's great, we can put them all in the bags, and then our guests can actually get their Ray-Bans back and have a bag and know like, wow, they actually thought through that too. And so we're seeing a lot less of that as a necessity right now, but it's really, that was one of the inventions we came up with.
But again, that's so great because it shows that thoughtfulness and then putting it into application quickly, because that is something, again, lost and found is absolutely part of the guest experience. It's not an exciting part. It's a part that it's not a positive thing, but how can you make it as positive as possible? And by doing these little touches, it lets the guests know that, oh, wow, they actually thought that through, as you said. And it takes what could be a not so exciting experience. I mean, you lost something and you're trying to get it back to, wow, that was, absolutely. And then shared that
story. Try to make it so that it's like luxury at scale. And we worked with one of the top brands out there, and they said, wouldn't it be great if, and then you hear their story and you're just like, oh my gosh, we got to totally put that in Bounte. And what we came up with is this button you can press when you're doing the shipping label, and you can push another button and actually print a form letter. It says, thank you for staying. And you can have the GM sign it. And they put a gift in too, like a small lotion pack. And so you get your Ray-Bans back, you get a beautiful letter, and you get a gift. So guess who's talking about that at the cocktail party the next night? They're gonna be like, well, that brand got their act together when it comes even to lost and found. And so to turn something that would have been negative, like, oh, I lost my glasses, I don't know where it is, to, wow, what a cool, oh, I can't believe they did that. Can you believe they did that? I've never seen anything like it. And so that could be online, it could be, the positive feedback that you're really looking for to actually pivot a negative experience, insert technology, turn it into a positive experience.
Completely. And I mean, as a former hotelier, everything that you're saying is totally like, I'm getting goosebumps because I get it. It's all about, and I know that everybody that's listening as well too can totally see that it's like that extra little bit can just be the game changer. Which is it's awesome what you guys are doing. So, kind of just like, a couple more questions before we wrap up. But so you mentioned this a little bit earlier, as far as like changes in travelers' preferences. Like, what are you seeing or anticipating moving forward? And maybe like, how do you see Bounte tying into those preferences?
Well, I think, when we look at the modern traveler, the modern guest, we put them like around themes. So we come up with these themes and like, okay, what's the next 3 years going to look like? It's like, okay, we're looking at frictionless and responsive, and how do you get frictionless and responsive guest experiences? And so we're really designing all of our future technology around the fact that we want to make it as easy as possible for them to get more with less, right? Because they're going to expect that same level of service, but the hotel's going to have to deliver it in such a way where there's less people being able to kind of support that whole framework up. And so we're doing technologies like plane flow where it connects into all the various ways of how they communicate with their guests. And we're also one of the advanced providers of technology when it comes to the API. And that's an application programming interface. It allows us to plug and play into things like their property management system. The future of guest experience is really going to be in how you predict the capabilities of providing services. And that's going to be things like, oh, you ate at that restaurant, then you would like this restaurant. You know, you stayed in this room in our other property, you would love this room in this other property. And the only way to be able to serve that competitively is through artificial intelligence. And the only way that's actually going to work is through data. And so having Bounte connect into their ecosystem of technology, we're going to be able to provide them with that data. Even so, they can say, oh, well, how many people stayed at our hotel lost something? Oh, 1,500. You know, how much money did we spend logging items manually? How much money did we spend logging it because we had a camera, you know, using Bounte? We can provide all that data, and that connects into their technology and their ecosystem so they can make data-driven decisions in the future. And that's really going to be a key differentiator for the guests going, oh, I never really thought of that. Oh, that's a really cool idea. Or, hey, I was in my room and I said, Alexa, I lost something. And it was able to walk me through all of the questions and capture it without having a human being involved. And so we've got all of those technologies. We're working with Siri and Alexa, and it's going to be really exciting over the next several months to see those come through fruition. They're a bit out there, but you have to be there. That's what we do for a business. This is why, you know, the hotels that we have on our platform love us, is because we're always coming up with a thing where they were like, really? We didn't even think of that.
Which is the best part, because you're basically anticipating the needs even of the hotel, which is totally what they're all about. So you kind of like mentioned a little bit of some of the new things that you're working on. What other like new exciting developments are going on with Bounte? I hear there's a sustainability element as well too.
There is. There's two things we're working on. The first is post-COVID. If you walk into any hotel, you'll see it. Their front desk has a whole bunch of packages and parcels. And so you mentioned at the very beginning of the interview about parcel tracking. It's, you know, they're breeding Amazon boxes at hotels. Amazon has made it so easy to purchase stuff, but it puts a lot of pressure on the front desk because Amazon texts the guests before the front desk even knows a package arrived. And so we designed a system around that. We took apart our lost and found platform and put it all back together again, and actually now have an AI-enabled parcel tracking system. So as the parcels come in, you take a snapshot of the label, you select the guest name, it looks it up in the property management system to see if they have a reservation, auto-fills the room. You can do invoicing. So now if you do invoicing, all you need to do is say, oh, this is a small package, $2. So now you can actually turn something where you're like storing all these packages into a revenue generating opportunity. So that's a really exciting thing that we've got available now. And the second one, which is really exciting, is sustainability and green. Like if you can't see any vendor in technology, specifically, like if you look at Apple, like that is where they start their keynote, is on being green and sustainable. And that is a key area for hospitality as well. And so we partnered with Green Flag Recycling, and they provide a service where they will actually get a lot of, like, say, the phones and all the iPads and everything with like technology and LEDs that have to be properly disposed and with personally identifiable information. They provide a service where they send a box to the hotel. They put all of the stuff that wasn't returned in the lost and found. They give it to that particular company, and then they sell it and they're properly dispose it. And then this really neat aspect of Bounte is that it's connected, so they can actually run reports and say, oh, here are all the things we donated, here are all the things that we recycled, and here are all the things that we sold. And oh, by the way, the things that we sold actually generated revenue, because all of those iPhones and everything that got taken apart for parts were worth $25 each or $50 each. And so now we have a revenue generating and creating sustainability both with this new partnership with Green Flag. And it's really exciting to see all the hotels go, well, wait a minute, we didn't even think that could be possible.
No.
It's straight through processing from the time you find something all the way to, like, you know, after your 30, 60 or 90-day retention policies are through with the hotel. You're like, look, after 60 days, we're chucking this stuff. It's like, no, you're going to check the boxes in Bounte. You're giving it to Green Flag, and Green Flag is going to properly handle it.
Yeah.
So we got the whole thing, the whole up between the entire goalposts of lost and found addressed.
Well, that is so, I mean, I have to say, like, you guys are really thinking of everything, which is, it's amazing. And it's exciting because it's a gap that was in the industry that needed to be bridged, or at least have some attention given towards it. And you guys are thinking about all these creative things, and it's amazing to hear. So I have to say, first of all, like, super thank you for being on today's show, for sharing everything you're working on, also for bringing the energy. I mean, like, you're like, it's infectious, because I mean, again, it's something that we can all relate to, whether it's from the guest side or the customer side or from the operations side. And like, you're providing real solutions, and who doesn't get excited about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a human element to lost and found.
Yeah.
People will continue to lose a lot of things, and it's just human nature. That's just what it's going to be. And we're going to be there to help all of these organizations, whether you're a baseball field, an airline, or a hotel, really help solve and address those problems.
Which is awesome. No, I can't wait to hear more as you guys will like grow and develop. So with that being said, for all the listeners that have been tuning in, where can they get in touch with you, find out more about Bounte?
Best way to see Bounte is through a demo. Just go to bounte.net and you just click on the demo button. You can schedule. It takes 2 clicks. And that's it. And we can do it all online. And it's a really neat demo too. We do a day in a life demo of losing a watch and kind of like walking through the entire platform. And everyone at the end of every demo is like, oh my gosh, didn't know I could do that. All right. And, and they have their aha moment. So it's kind of a fun demo to be on.
That's cool. Well, we'll definitely make sure that we have the link to that in the show notes, as well as to you as well on LinkedIn and all of that. So thank you again so much for joining me today. This has been such a great conversation. I feel a little bit better about Lost and Found, or at least knowing that you were there at the helm. No, I love that. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you again so much. And for everybody that's tuning in, I'll be sure to have all the details here so that you can connect with Steve. You can find out more about Bounte. I mean, what they're doing is definitely groundbreaking. So it's certainly exciting to hear about. So that is it for today's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, thanks for listening, and continue to say yes to travel.